The tenor of the Jacksonville mayoral campaign just now taking shape, with Democrat Donna Deegan and Republican Daniel Davis set to go head-to-head in the May general election after neither of the candidates got the required 50% of the votes to avoid this runoff. We invited both to join us here this morning. Mr. Davis said he would, but at a later date. Donna did agree to be with us here on the morning show, so good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. So this May election is a whole new ballgame because you go from a crowded field of 7 to just 2. And it's no surprise that after the outcome Tuesday night, Daniel Davis basically portrayed what's to come as a battle between a conservative, him, and a liberal, you. Now, that kind of classification may play on the national stage, but Rick Mullaney, who's our political analyst, said when it comes to local elections, that kind of framing just doesn't work. So how would you portray the difference between the two of you and how you'd like to see people look at you?
Well, look, to me, local government is about customer service, right? It's about public service. It's about potholes. It's about lights and streets. It's about making sure that small businesses can function. I think all this narrative is, it's typical. It's what you hear. It's sort of a cut and paste sort of strategy to frame, him one way and me another. But folks have known me for a long time in this community. I think they know I'm not extreme in any way, shape, or form. I just am somebody who wants to serve the community. And I think we need somebody who's ready to bring people's voices into the city. And that's what you miss when you make everything about national politics. That's not us. We're Jacksonville. Let's focus on that.
Okay. And in the first election, which is what they called it, it got very nasty. And Daniel Davis went after Leanna Cumber, and there are some people who believe that that's why she didn't fare very well in that election. Do you expect that the campaign this go-round will be as derisive?
Listen, I hope not. I spoke with Daniel a year and a half ago and said, look, if it ends up being the two of us, I hope we can just have a nice contest of ideas. I think we have some very different ways of viewing things, and I would love for us to be able to take those views to the city of Jacksonville and actually unite this city and bring us together, as opposed to this sort of scorched earth, zero-sum politics that I know a lot of people say is inevitable. I don't believe that. I've been saying for 20 years, fear never gets us where we want to go. We need to bring people together, and I think that's the way forward.
Campaigns take a lot of money. Winning a political race takes a lot of money. And the reality is that Daniel Davis had a considerable war chest. I assume that he will going in. You didn't have as much money to play with. There are some people who say in order for you to win this election, you're going to have to advertise. You're going to need the national Democratic campaign to come in and help you fund this campaign. So keeping an eye on the 2024 presidential election and realizing that the outcome of this election might have some impact with Florida being high profile, do you think that you're going to get some financial support from them?
Well, I don't know, but let me just first of all say that I was outspent 10-1 in this primary, and we came out almost at 40%, 15 points ahead of Mr. Davis and considerably ahead of the rest of the field. So I have said from the very beginning that our grassroots approach to this campaign, being in the neighborhoods every week, knocking on doors, holding town hall meetings, actually seeing people eyeball to eyeball in a local election is extraordinarily important. I feel like I already had a very good relationship with people in this community, but certainly money is important. I'm not going to say it isn't. I don't think it is the most important when it comes to local elections. So I will take help anywhere I can get it, for certain. But we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing to try to get folks to the polls.
And when you look at history, mayoral campaigns in Jacksonville tend to turn to the Republicans. So it may all be about turnout. When you looked at the first election, there was a healthier Republican turnout than there was about Democrat. Either way you couch it, the turnout was very low.
It was.
There's an apathy among voters.
Yeah.
But also, if you look at history in the May runoffs, there's a better turnout. So it is the get out the vote that could make a difference.
That's right. Well, I will say that regardless of the fact that there was a Republican majority in this election, we just saw about 7,500 votes, I think. We were still the top vote getter in both in both of those things. So I think that when you look at that, it really says to me that people in Jacksonville want a candidate that is not going to be hyper-partisan one way or another. Now, do we need turnout? Absolutely we do. I'd like to see everybody turn out for elections. I don't understand folks not caring about what happens locally, but I think what we need to do is talk to folks that very often will come out for the state and national elections and say, look, here's why it's important for you to focus on these local elections. Local elections matter to your lives probably more than just about any election there is. And that's what I'm hoping to be able to convince people in this next election. Please come out and take a stake and have a voice in what happens in your city.
And given what I said, you do have a man, in John Delaney, who, was labeled a Republican, but ran this city very much like a centrist and on the issues. Let's talk about what's most important for Jacksonville, because Jacksonville has a reputation for getting in its own way when it comes to making things happen, because this city could be so much further than it is. What would you like to see change here? What does need to happen? The biggest issue?
Well, first thing we have to do is change the culture. I think that is what has caused a lot of people to check out. I think the negative campaigning caused a lot of people to check out. But I also think the way that we have conducted ourselves in this city, it hasn't been a very transparent process. We have not taken the time, either through our city website or through the way we conduct our council meetings, in so many ways, we haven't brought people into the process. One of the things that I want to do that I think will be very helpful is to take our boards that we have in this city, and there are many, and diversify them. Make them look like Jacksonville, so we're bringing more people into the process and making decisions for how things move forward in this city. I think if you can show people that they are actually going to be able to take an active part in their government, they'll participate. Right now, I think people feel shut out. I think there's a wall there, and I think it's been put there purposely so that a handful of folks can continue to do well. We need to bring everybody into this economy and everybody into the conversation.
And then there's the whole issue of the mayor and council working together, which we have to see how the city council race pans out, which we'll talk about, at another time. Once again, I do want to point out that we did invite Daniel Davis to join us. He said, reach out to my PR people and I'll make myself available. So we'll keep you posted on that. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.